Rebecca wakes up early, as always, but the sound of the alarm clock seems louder today. Maybe it's because she knows what awaits her once she steps outside. She works at a large company, where the weight of her social background doesn't go unnoticed. She's already noticed the stares that follow her down the hallway, the whispers during meetings. Does she really belong here? They ask, without saying a word. Have you ever wondered what happens when fate places someone where they don't feel welcome, but that person knows they have the strength to prove they belong? Rebecca knows. She faces prejudice with courage, even though the weight of others' judgment often makes her question if it's all worth it. And then there's Gabriel, CEO of a major company, wealthy, upper class. He has everything he could ever want. Or does he? His life seems perfectly organized, in control. But if you look beyond the surface, you'll see he's also grappling with his own dilemmas. He never imagined someone like Rebecca would enter his life, much less make such an impact. At first, she seemed like the embodiment of everything he believed didn't belong in his world. But something about Rebecca, something he can't quite define, begins to break down the walls he spent years building. And how would you react if someone came into your life and challenged everything you believed was right about the world? What do you do when the very concept of class and origin gets tangled up with what you feel deep in your soul? Will Gabriel be able to see beyond the surface? Or will he let his fears and prejudices speak louder? Their relationship, which seemed destined to be just another clash of worlds, begins to take the shape of something deeper. Something that asks whether it really matters where you come from, or if what truly matters is the journey you choose to take with someone else. Can they find common ground? Or will the challenges be too big to overcome? And in the middle of it all, what will Rebecca do when she realizes that what began as discomfort is turning into something unexpectedly real? What happens when you find yourself caught between two worlds that seem impossible to connect? Rebecca soon realizes that even though she's accepted professionally, something deeper still separates her from Gabriel. It's not just the suspicious looks from others, it's the weight of the expectations of a man used to having everything under control. How could she, a woman from the outskirts of the city, ever be seen as part of his life? How could someone like her, with such a different story, fit into Gabriel's meticulously curated world? She feels the uncomfortable stares, the unspoken words. But what's worse, dealing with the prejudice of those around her, or the feeling of not being fully accepted by him, by Gabriel, the man who, over time, begins to see her in a way he never expected. He tries to deal with his own feelings, with the jealousy that love brings, knowing that Rebecca's love, while real, also comes at a price. He's not just falling for her, he's confronting the idea that his own social class, his own beliefs, might not be as unshakable as he once thought. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to face your own inner demons while trying to hold on to something that seemed simple, but is actually incredibly complex? Gabriel begins to see himself in an internal struggle. What's stronger, his desire for true love or the rigid standards of his society? And Rebecca, will she be able to handle the pressure of staying true to herself while trying to fit into this new world? She often feels like she has to hide parts of herself just to be accepted by Gabriel and his social circle. Or will she find a way to remain faithful to her essence without losing herself? Because in the end, what's harder, facing prejudice from the outside or the kind that rises from within us? And will their love be strong enough to overcome these barriers? And then a moment comes, one no one imagined would be so defining. Rebecca's first meeting with Pedro, Gabriel's 8-year-old son, still innocent and full of curiosity about the world. The park was large, but it felt smaller that day, as if the universe had condensed into that one space, that one moment. Rebecca watched from a distance, hesitant, unsure of how to take the first step. But Pedro, with a child's natural ease, was the one who called to her. "Hey, do you know how to make a paper airplane?" The question was simple yet loaded with immense meaning. What would be a child's first impression of the woman who might become part of his life? And more importantly, how would Rebecca, who had already faced so much prejudice in her own circle, deal with the pure gaze of a child who saw no difference between her and anyone else? The answer came in the form of laughter and crumpled paper. Together they made a paper airplane. Rebecca, patient and kind, taught him tricks and shared stories. And Pedro, his eyes glowing with curiosity, absorbed everything as if it were a wonderful new discovery. There was no room for judgment, no differences in class or background. Just a child and a woman, united in a simple activity, but one that began to create deep bonds. Now imagine what Rebecca must have felt in that moment. Did she sense that something had changed, that her connection with Pedro could be the start of something more? Did she see in Pedro's pure, unprejudiced energy a glimpse of what the future could be? And for Pedro, did that woman, who until then had only existed through Gabriel's words, suddenly become someone real, someone close? The connection between them grew naturally, as if it were destined. Rebecca was no longer just Gabriel's woman. She was becoming part of something greater, something that, in an unexpected way, embraced her without judgment. The bond with Pedro was the first step down a path that, for her, was becoming clearer. And what do you think happens when a child begins to accept someone who theoretically never belonged in their life? What power lies in that kind of innocent affection, without barriers, without fear of opening up? Because in that moment at the park, something fundamental began to unfold. Something that would transform Rebecca and Gabriel's relationship into something far greater than all the hardships and prejudices they had faced. And that's when, in the middle of a storm of feelings and challenges, Gabriel surprises Rebecca with something that until that moment seemed unimaginable. He looks into her eyes with a sincerity she hadn't seen before and says, "What if, instead of bouncing between your world and mine, we created a home that's just ours? A place where it doesn't matter where we came from, only what we want to build together. A home where we all feel like we belong." In that moment, Rebecca is overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions. She had always known that there was something real between them, something that defied logic and the boundaries of social convention. But what Gabriel was proposing was more than she had ever imagined. It wasn't just a house, it was the chance to build a shared life where she could be herself without hiding her roots. A place where prejudice had no place, where she could be accepted not for where she came from, but for who she truly was. Have you ever stopped to think what it would be like to receive a proposal like that? Not from someone who pities you or wants to save you, but from someone who genuinely sees your worth and is willing to face the challenges by your side? How would you react to an offer not based on ownership or control, but on building something equal and genuine? Rebecca feels a mix of gratitude and insecurity. After all, how do you build a home with someone from a world so different from yours? Does he really understand what that would mean for her identity, for the way she moves through the world? But at the same time, something in her heart is clear. She's not being asked just to share a house. She's being asked to be part of a new story, one where their differences can coexist and, instead of dividing, bring them closer together. And have you ever felt torn between doubt and the desire to embrace something that could change your entire view of what's possible? With that simple yet profound proposal, Gabriel opens the door to an uncertain future, one filled with promises of love, respect, and acceptance. Now the question is, will Rebecca, with all her fears and insecurities, have the courage to accept this invitation and step into this new chapter with Gabriel? What more does she have to lose, other than the walls she built around herself? But like any story of transformation, nothing is simple. What seemed like a new beginning soon proves to be a journey full of obstacles. The love between Gabriel and Rebecca grows, but the difficulties remain, like shadows trying to dim the light they're building together. The judgmental stares don't disappear overnight, and now they're not just from people at the office. They come from everywhere, from a society that still sees class differences as an unbridgeable divide, as if their love was something to be questioned, something that can't last. But something else changes with time, their strength to face these challenges. Because when you build something together, with sacrifice and effort, it becomes harder to let obstacles define the destiny of what you've created. Gabriel starts to realize that his wealth and status aren't what truly matter. What matters is respect. Respect for Rebecca's individuality, for her journey, for her courage in facing everything it took to stand by his side. He starts to change, to open himself to a new perspective on what it means to truly be free to love. And Rebecca, in turn, must face her own transformation. She's used to being judged, but now she must get used to being accepted by Gabriel and his social circle. It's not easy. Often she feels lost, wondering if she's sacrificing too much of herself. But what keeps her grounded is the love that, despite all the challenges, grows stronger every day, and the certainty that she has found a home in Gabriel, and even more so, in his son Pedro. When she sees his smile, she knows it's worth fighting for. She's not just building a future for herself and Gabriel, but also for Pedro, for this child who unknowingly helped her feel at home, feel part of something bigger. Gabriel's mother, Donna Celia, also becomes part of this journey, and her acceptance becomes a milestone. She, who might have been an obstacle at first, turns into a crucial ally. Over time, she sees in Rebecca what many others never did. She sees a strong, resilient woman who doesn't want to be treated as an exception, but as a person of worth. That acceptance, coming from those closest to them, makes their relationship even more solid. And you? Have you ever wondered what happens when social barriers begin to fall? When true connection between people starts to be built on respect and trust? Can we overcome our own prejudices when we allow ourselves to look beyond the surface, beyond the conventions we've learned to follow? Rebecca and Gabriel's journey is one of constant evolution, and each obstacle overcome is a victory, not just for their relationship, but for building a future where class and origin no longer hold the power to separate them. They begin to understand that true love, the kind that defies all expectations and conventions, is what truly builds an unshakable foundation. And when the shadows of hardship begin to fade, there's a moment when everything becomes clearer, simpler. During a family dinner by the soft glow of candlelight, Gabriel looks at Rebecca with eyes full of emotion. He's no longer the distant CEO she once met, but a vulnerable man, ready to open his heart in a way he never thought possible. In that moment, among laughter and knowing glances, he reaches for her hand and says with deep sincerity, "Rebecca, you're not just a part of my life. You're the reason my life makes sense now. I want to spend the rest of my days with you. Will you marry me?" The words echo, but before any answer, a silence filled with emotion takes over. Rebecca feels the weight of the moment, the power of the proposal. It's not just a marriage proposal. It's a profound acknowledgement of the journey they've taken together. He's not just asking her to be his wife, he's asking her to be part of his life, completely and wholly. He's embracing not only the easiest parts of her, but all her complexities, her struggles, her victories. Now imagine yourself in her place. After so many hardships, so many challenges, having someone look at you like that with such devotion, with such respect, how would you react? Would doubt and fear finally make room for the happiness that for so long seemed so far away? Or did Rebecca, when she looked into his eyes, feel that she had finally found a place where her roots and her dreams could grow together? She doesn't need words to express what she feels. The smile on her face, the emotion in her eyes, they say it all. She knows that this proposal is the culmination of something greater than the two of them, something that began with a misunderstanding, but became something real, true, unconditional love. And when she finally says yes, the simplicity of the gesture doesn't lessen the magnitude of the moment. Their wedding won't be extravagant, but it will be something far more precious. It will be a union built on trust, resilience, and a love that refuses to be shaken by social divides. They don't need anything else but each other. And you, have you ever thought about the power of a promise made in a moment of deep connection? When love is so big that even without words, that yes becomes more than an answer to a question. It becomes the answer to every doubt, every challenge, every step that brought you here. Gabriel's proposal is not just a milestone in their relationship, it's proof that love can overcome everything. And in every detail of that simple yet meaningful dinner, Gabriel and Rebecca feel that what once seemed impossible is now real. They are truly a family. And then, life, with all its surprises, takes the next big step. Rebecca and Gabriel, now married, begin to feel that the family they always dreamed of is finally coming together. And destiny, in its poetic way, brings them a new gift, Clarice. When Rebecca discovers she's pregnant, it's as if time slows down. Her heart races, but not out of fear, out of a deep, radiant happiness, the kind that only comes when you feel that everything you've been through had a purpose. Clarice is not just a baby, she is the realization of a dream, of a future that finally makes sense. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to know you're not just bringing a new life into the world, but creating something new, something that symbolizes the union of everything you've built? To hold in your arms the very embodiment of a love that has already weathered so much. Rebecca and Gabriel, now expecting the daughter they've always longed for, are overwhelmed with emotion. And Pedro, now 11, sees himself as a protective older brother, eager to teach his sister everything he knows. Their bond with Clarice begins in the smallest moments. Gabriel gently rubbing Rebecca's belly at night, the look in Pedro's eyes when he talks about how he'll take care of her, the laughter of Grandma Celia as she shares stories from her own childhood. The happiness surrounding them is tangible, like a warm, reassuring embrace that whispers, "We're finally complete." And even though challenges still arise, nothing can shake the feeling that they truly belong to one another now. Clarice is more than just a new member of the family. She is the symbol of everything Rebecca and Gabriel overcame together. She is the most beautiful, genuine fruit of a love that defied every barrier and refused to be defined by social conventions. Now, in every smile from Pedro, every glance exchanged between Gabriel and Rebecca, there is a new certainty. Their life is complete. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to watch the fruit of your love grow and, in doing so, realize that every struggle was worth it? To look into the eyes of your child and know that, from this moment forward, your future will be built with more unity, more strength, and above all, more love. Clarice came to change everything, not just as a daughter, but as the living proof of a love that bloomed against all odds. Gabriel and Rebecca's family isn't just growing, it's finally coming to life. And so, with Clarice in their arms, Rebecca and Gabriel's lives begin to transform in the most beautiful way. Time passes, and little Clarice grows, bringing indescribable joy with her. She is the star of the house, the reason everyone wakes up smiling, the unconditional love that binds each heart even closer in this family, built on overcoming, on acceptance, and on constant effort. Pedro, now 11, becomes the watchful older brother, the one who, with genuine affection, teaches his sister to walk, to run, to speak her first words. What must it be like to look at your little sister and see not only the future of your family, but the living expression of all the love you've seen grow at home? Pedro is growing not just as a child, but as someone who is beginning to understand the importance of family, mutual care, and affection without limits. Rebecca and Gabriel watch all of this unfold with eyes full of gratitude. Their fight for a love once thought impossible is being rewarded in each one of Clarice's giggles, each small moment of tenderness. There is no longer space for the social barriers that once tried to divide them. No more fear of not belonging, because above all else, they have learned that true love isn't rooted in class or status. It's in the willingness to support one another, in the shared dream of building a home that honors every difference and celebrates every similarity. And you, have you ever reflected on the power of unconditional love? On how it can transform everything around you? When you are truly accepted, it doesn't matter where you came from, but who you've become. Rebecca and Gabriel, once worlds apart, now form one life, with a future full of hope, and a daughter who represents what's possible when love isn't chosen by background, but by the purest parts of the heart. Their family life is simple, yet full. Every small gesture, every quiet conversation on the couch, every shared moment is a reminder that love is, in the end, what connects everything that once seemed distant. And above all, they now know that happiness isn't found in having everything the world can offer, but in being everything to each other. Pedro, now the older brother, feels happy and safe with Clarice by his side. Rebecca and Gabriel together are building what a true family looks like. Not perfect, but filled with love and understanding. They've finally reached what everyone searches for: belonging. A life where love and acceptance are stronger than any prejudice. Now that the family is complete, what more could they need? They've learned that in the end, love wins, and their lives have been transformed not just by Clarice's arrival, but by what she represents, a love that, against all odds, bloomed and took root. And then, in a quiet moment like a deep breath after the storm, Gabriel and Rebecca find themselves alone, sitting peacefully in a corner of their home, watching the children play in the garden. The scene is simple, but full of meaning. Clarice with her innocent laughter, and Pedro, now 11, guiding his sister's first steps like someone who knows the value of care. Gabriel and Rebecca's family is finally whole. They look at each other in silence, as if no words are needed to understand what they feel inside. Their journey, which began with discomfort and doubt, now shines as a story of strength, resilience, and, above all, love. They who were once divided by invisible lines of judgment and expectation now live in a home that is truly theirs, a home where differences are not a weakness but a treasure, where acceptance and respect were the foundation of something that grows stronger every day. "How did we start here?" Gabriel asks, more to himself than to Rebecca. He smiles, lost in thought. Rebecca, her gaze calm and grateful, replies, "We started with a misunderstanding. Me, with my insecurities. You, with your fears. But when we began to really listen to each other, to see each other for who we truly were, everything started to make sense. And you, have you ever asked yourself what happens when time passes and the things that once seemed impossible become the foundation of a happy life? How simply looking back at all you've overcome can give you a new perspective on what truly matters." Rebecca's gaze softens with reflection and a heart full of gratitude. From a woman who once carried the weight of society's judgment, she became someone who, together with Gabriel, built a home grounded in understanding, acceptance, and above all, unconditional love. She looks at the family they've created and with a smile on her face feels whole. "I never imagined something so beautiful could happen," she thinks to herself. She knows now that life had something far more beautiful in store for her than she ever believed possible. Because in the end, that's what really matters. The proof that true love knows no color, no class, no origin. True love is built day by day, with patience, with respect, and with the courage to believe we can become better, not in spite of our differences, but because of them. Rebecca and Gabriel, through their unique story, show us that the impossible is only an illusion when love is what leads the way. And the greatest lesson of all is simple yet profound. Life holds far more beautiful surprises than we could ever imagine. Subscribe to the channel and share. Thank you for staying with us until the end. May you also find what your heart has been waiting for. Watch the next suggested video. We'll see you there.